Hello and welcome to another episode on the Echoes from the Past YouTube channel. Join me today just out on a walk in some beautiful scenery, and today I want to talk about how stubborn the Germans were during the Second World War. Now we all know this, that they had their plans and they wanted to stick to them, but what I want to talk specifically about today is how they dealt with the D-Day invasions, or how they didn't really deal with it. Because they didn't really at all. So there's a lot that goes into this, and a lot of the information that I'm going to try and remember and try and say came from a really good book called the D-Day Atlas. I'll put the link down below. It's a really good book. They released a brand new hardcover edition, I think last year, 2024. There is an old paperback version that was around for a long time, but they reprinted it hardback. It's a really good book. The maps are amazing. The way it's written and laid out is amazing. So yeah, everything, all the information mainly came from that book, really. It's an amazing book. So anyway, so how stubborn were they? Well, first of all, they still believed that the invasion in Normandy that was happening was not the real invasion. The real invasion was going to happen in the Pas-de-Calais area. And for many reasons, this happened really, that they believed this strange theory. A lot of dominoes had to fall in the correct order for this to happen. So the first off was the Allies, it's a testament to the Allies' planning and their deception of the Germans before they decided to invade Germany. They'd learned from their past mistakes. They were kicked out of Europe, from Dunkirk in May 1940. So it took them all those years of learning and digesting that information and going, okay, what can we do to make sure that when we do re-enter Europe, it's successful this time round? So the first thing they did was a lot of deception. So very famously, there was the fake, I can't remember if it was an army or an RAF base, and it was made of inflatable vehicles, and that was across the channel from Calais and the Dover area. So that was one of the first major things that they did to deceive the Germans in the lead up to the D-Day invasions. And the second was a combination really of the Allies' bombing campaign, the oil and transport plan, combined with the French resistance. So obviously, the French resistance, they disrupted a lot of the communications network, which obviously would lead to in D-Day that complete bedlam of lack of communication between the Germans and what was going on in the Normandy area. So they, the French resistance, they played their part. And like I said, the oil and the transport plan, the pre-bombing campaign that happened before the landings, that was a really big part as well to disrupt any kind of plans that the Germans had for a counter-attack. And speaking of counter-attacks, obviously, the Allies were always, later in the war, it was, the Allies would attack and they were always scared of a German counter-attack. Well, on D-Day, that didn't really happen. And that didn't really happen for a couple of reasons. Kind of linked to the title of the video is that they were stubborn, frankly. So Hitler obviously wanted to remain in charge because he's the head honcho, so to speak. But his other commanders, Rommel and von Rundstedt, they still, when the D-Day landings were happening, they still didn't believe that the Normandy landing was the true landing. The true landing was going to happen in Calais. So they were dithering about. They didn't really take it seriously. So the Germans wanted to counterattack, and mainly von Rundstedt, because at this point he's in charge in the Normandy area. He wants to counterattack, but Hitler's still asleep, and nobody wants to wake him up, which it just boggles the mind. It's the case of, and I think that happens later in the war, where Hitler's generals, they just tell him what he wants to hear because they're scared of him. They're scared of the reaction that they're going to get. They don't want to end up being demoted or possibly even worse. So von Rundstedt wants to counter-attack with panzer divisions. He wants armour to counter, to push the Allies back into the sea. But he just kind of has to sit there and twiddle his thumbs and wait for Hitler to wake up. But I believe he'd actually taken a sleeping pill, which meant that Hitler didn't wake up till, I believe, about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. At this point, obviously, the paratroopers already landed in the early hours. They've already started to disrupt things. Then in the later mornings, 6:30-ish, towards 7, 8 o'clock, the landings have started happening. So there is Allied troops on the beaches, and Hitler is still in bed. Like I said before, communication is disrupted. So even the different beaches can't talk to each other. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how many troops are landing at each beach. It's absolute bedlam. So another important character is Erwin Rommel, obviously very famous for the North Africa campaign. The Desert Fox was his nickname. And he stated that 2 panzer divisions in 15th Army area must not move, since the landings in 7th Army's sector was clearly a diversion from the real invasion that was going to occur later in Calais. And again, that links back to the stubbornness. They were still defiant in, no, we won't move anything because the way we've set up this Atlantic wall, it will work. We've put so much concrete and so much time and so much effort and manpower into this formidable defence, when it wasn't really. I mean, you've only got, 4 guns up at the Merville Battery, I can't remember the exact name. 4 guns is nothing when you've got battleships and destroyers and cruisers in, on the beachhead that far outgun any of that. So Rommel links into this stubbornness of no, that Panzer division stays there because we believe that this will work and this is the plan and this is what the Allies are going to do. When in reality, obviously, it didn't play out how they expected it. So as the morning's going on, the invasion's happening, von Rundstedt finally gets an answer at 2:30 in the afternoon. And by this point, well, goodness, there have been multiple battles. The Battle of Breakout Manor, very famously depicted in Band of Brothers, that has already happened, and those guns have been taken out. Armour and men have already started to move inland from all the beaches, and just the amount of hours that have passed from when the invasion first started to 2:30 in the afternoon, that is an enormous amount of time, and that's such a window that is missed by the Germans. And it is their own fault at the end of the day. And he gets, so at 2:30, von Rundstedt gets 12th SS Panzer Division to move in and start to make some kind of counter-attack to push the Allies back into the sea. And I think one of the similar themes, as well as stubbornness, I think a lot of it that also plays into it is egos. Egos from the Germans. Like I said before, Hitler, he's the head honcho, he wants to make the decisions, he's in charge of the armoured divisions because he knows best, sort of thing. And it's the same with Rommel, and it's the same with von Rundstedt, and later, Karl Wolff, and a guy called Kaltenbrunner. All these high-ranking Germans, and Goebbels and Goering, they have an ego that they want to maintain, and they just want to feed it by, I did this for the Fuhrer, and I did this for the Third Reich. And really, that's to the detriment of the Germans and the overall result of the Second World War, really. And with that said, I think the Allies have similar problems as well later in the war, especially after D-Day, when they're moving through France and they're moving towards Belgium and Germany. In this debate between Montgomery and Bradley of a wide front versus a narrow front. But I think the Allies, obviously, as history shows us, the Allies have dealt with that better, because I think the perfect word for it is compromise, as the Allies were able to come to a compromise and let go of their ego the best that they can. Obviously, things still irked them. I'm sure, the Soviets getting into Berlin irked the Allies, and, but they were just able to deal with it better. So, yeah, as it turns out, the Germans are very, very stubborn. They've got big egos, and, yeah, what can we learn? So what can we take from that, really? What lessons can we learn from that to apply to now in real life? And I think the major lesson is, just be open to flexibility and open to options. Things are going to happen, things are going to go wrong, you need to pivot. Try not to be so stuck in, this is the plan and this will work. It's modern day life, and things go wrong, curveballs get thrown at you. And I think that's the one lesson that we can learn is take advice from people, take counsel from people, listen and take things on board, and then act from there. I think tunnel vision is a bad thing. So I think that's the major lessons we can learn. I hope that's been very informative. Like I said, the D-Day Atlas is a really good book. I'll link it down below. check it out. It's very easily digestible. The maps are amazing, and yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I tried to provide a little bit more detail this time, with army groups and names and of people and what happened and times and things. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the pictures and the videos that I show of the scenery around my walk here, because it's been a really nice day so far. So yeah, hope to catch you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around. Peace.